Welcome to Built on Behavior with your host, Brooke Trometer. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Built on Behavior, and I am your host, Brooke Trometer. Today, we are here with Lex Vuko. Did I say that right? Vuko?
You said it right.
All right. So most people trust the system until the system tells them they're fine and they know they're not. Today's conversation is about that moment. The moment when your labs come back normal, but you're exhausted, anxious, not sleeping, and something in your body just doesn't feel right. Well, my guest today, I have seen her called the Calm Body Architect.
Yeah.
Yep. And her work focuses on helping women understand what their body is actually signaling, especially after they've been told nothing is wrong. And what makes this conversation interesting is that she's not coming from a place of rejecting medicine entirely because her father was a doctor.
Yeah.
So this isn't about hating the system, it's about asking better questions and what happens when the system does exactly what it was designed to do, but still doesn't solve a problem. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Lex, for the ones that don't know who you are yet. So, yeah, give us a little bit about you.
Absolutely. Born and raised in Eastern Europe, Serbia. I moved to United States when I was 16, maybe 17, and lived in the United States my whole adult life. And so, yes, my father was a doctor. My mother was a pharmacist. I grew up in a family that's very much into medicine. When I was 16, before I moved to United States, I actually got hit by a car. And not to get too graphic, but it was an open wound and the heel bone fell out. And I had great medical staff help, except that I was told I won't be able to walk normally again, which I rejected at that time. I didn't know anything about the power of the brain, the power of the body. I didn't know anything. This is 1998 in Eastern Europe. Nobody's talking about the power of mindset. But I
Yeah.
rejected that and I said, no, I don't think so. And I visualized myself run, and to make a long story short, the heel bone that fell out during the impact actually grew back. So that was my first experience with, whoa, there's so much more here than we're talking about. Fast forward, moved to United States, continued on with my life, became a trainer eventually, and I started really looking into bodies differently. And I wanted to show people how powerful workouts are. And then with that, it was more about nutrition. And I started studying nutrition and then connecting the two and helping my clients that way. Eventually, I opened my own studio in Nashville, Tennessee. It was a fitness studio. Although we talked about nutrition, we did meditations, we did a lot of stretching, eventually, even yoga. I was trying to look into a holistic aspect of it all. Throughout my whole journey, I wanted to learn more about meditations myself, to feel different on the inside, and started connecting the dots and started seeing just how powerful our bodies are. And eventually, in 2018, I sold my studio. I took a couple years off, had my son, and went back online. And I started seeing this gap. I started seeing how people feel disappointed by Western medicine. People feel hopeless. People feel they don't know which way to turn. And I started just talking with people about, like, do you understand the power that you have within? Started creating meditations for them, starting addressing their nervous system, starting looking into a person as a whole, and started healing people. And then I went, okay, we definitely need to talk about it more. And you're right. Like, it just, when someone looks at me and what I say, they'll think, oh my God, you're like so anti doctor. I'm not. I don't think that the Western medicine is designed to look at a person as a whole.
Yeah.
And I don't like doctors that don't go into the root cause of a patient. I believe that if you present yourself to be a healer, whether it be a doctor, a nurse, a coach, functional medicine practitioner, whoever you are, you need to look into a person as a whole. What I create is a space for them to be themselves, which is what I had to do on my own journey, is to create a safe space for me and started noticing shifts within me. And then through the power of meditation, I healed my back pain in one night. And it was just one of those things that things kept adding on to me to show why we don't need to look at just one symptom. We need to look at a person as a whole. And I'm super passionate about it because I see it with women every day. And obviously, being a woman is just something that touches my heart.
Yeah, that I would definitely agree with. I found it's interesting, and I know it's gonna take, like, a odd turn in medical conversation here for the doctor stuff, but like you said, Western medicine, we aren't they don't seem to be trained to look at everybody as a whole. Funny enough, I was scrolling through Facebook, and, I do a lot with animals myself. I'm a big animal person. So a lot of my feed and everything is animals. And I was watching this vet on on a reel or something along those lines, and I went in and I was reading the comments, and the comments were a lot of like actual medical doctors that were blown away by the fact that that like a regular veterinarian deals with the entire animal. Like, they can diagnose the heart issues, kidney issues. They deal with gastrology. They deal with, regular contagious diseases. Like the entire spectrum of that animal, multiple species at that, that this one doctor does it all. And they were just blown away. And here we are with human medicine doctors, where you have one species of animal essentially that you're handling, and no doctor would ever attempt to just tackle the entire system, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's, I think, the biggest mistake of it. And going back to my dad, yes, he was a doctor, but I think that's where I learned the foundation is because he would sit people down and say, this is what's going on. This is what your options are. And he would present them real options like how to heal naturally. And then people would choose what they want to heal from. So I think that that's where, and he was big on nutrition. I think that that's the roots of when it was instilled in me as to how important the overall person is. Then I got to see, I mean, I would love to see the whole medicine transform into talking about nervous system because 80% of my work is with nervous system, with people, because our nervous system determines who we're going to be with, who our friends are going to be with, how much money we're going to earn, where are we going to live. We think we have free will, but it's all predetermined by our nervous system. And so when we look at person as a whole, this is why women go to doctors and they're like, I have anxiety, I have panic attacks, I have this and that. And the shortcut is to give them a pill where my thing is pill could serve a purpose, but what's the actual root cause? I just posted today saying, how conditioned are we to treat these symptoms and to want to get rid of them? Yes, sometimes to treat them, but to never ask why. Why
Uh-huh.
is this showing up? And that's the main question is anxiety doesn't show up for no reason. Depression doesn't show up for no reason. They didn't know what to do with themselves and just ended up in your body to bother you, right? There is a reason. And my whole world is looking into why is this showing up. And I'll tell you that 99% of the time we'll look into patterns from like from history, from nervous system where as a child, the person adopted some beliefs. And for women, it's generally being over pleasing, over giving, over accommodating, and not knowing who they are and not being able to speak their needs. And what's dangerous with that is if we're unable to speak our needs and we're trying to say something, women sometimes wait for a disease to speak for them to show how much they've been sacrificing. But almost every woman is brought up to that. Overgive, overplease, sacrifice, never speak your needs. And so she hits these 50s and 60s, and the body is starting to scream. They think it's perimenopause or menopause, which is a whole nother subject that Western medicine is not really great at. But that's just showing up even more as the symptoms that were showing before, but she just can't ignore them anymore. So to me, it's about how do we combine everything and look at the person as a whole? I mean, if we can do it with animal kingdom, why can't we do it with humans?
That's the same thing that I've wondered, and it's like, they wonder because these doctors were also like, how is it, the animals seem to get better diagnosis and they can't even speak, to say what's wrong with them than people do. People go undiagnosed so much, but like animals don't, and why? And the consensus is because you do have that one doctor that looks at the entire thing. They look at everything, not just the heart, not just the kidneys or whatever, but they're also looking at what is their living environment? What are they eating? What other animals are in the house? What other, like there's so much more. They're not just looking at the medical per se, but they're looking at the nutrition. What are you feeding them? What, are they eating table scraps? What kind of level of food do they have? They're looking at the environmental aspects of everything too. So they really are acting more as like a holistic and like functional medicine doctor versus specific, systems. And,
Absolutely.
so I think I do agree. I think that's a big breakdown in us. And none of our doctors want to talk to each other, you
Yes.
know, to try
Right.
to
Well,
help.
they don't have time. They don't know how to talk to each other, and they've been trained not to do that, right? You send a person to a specialist on the lungs, or you send a person to the specialist on GI tract or whatever. And once again, the work that I do is why? Why is this showing up? And I'm telling you, I mean, I have yet to see a woman that I haven't met that wasn't in that fawn that goes, yeah, this is a pattern. Yeah, I don't know who I am. Yes, I don't know how to speak for myself. And it's
Hmm.
these little bits and pieces of resentment they hold about this and about that and about another thing. And it just builds up over years. So by the age 40, 50, it's like the body is screaming and the body is simply
Mm,
speaking on something is wrong. And back to animals, why are these domesticated animals having the same issues that humans are? And
yep.
wild animals don't have those issues. So where's the connect and where's the disconnect, right? Like, why are we being boxed? Why are we not getting out in the sun? And we're always high stress and we have normalized high stress and we've normalized these things where just because it's common doesn't mean that it's normal. So if we're willing to get to the root cause, the body will do its job of healing itself.
Hmm. No, absolutely. We as a society have kind of, I think, put ourselves into a very, like you said, it's common, but a very unnatural state for us. This constant level of stress and pressure and speed that everything happens in anymore. Um, and that I think that level of stress affects us deeply. And it does. And like you said, the animals are starting to show a lot of the same symptoms. And a lot of that is because, and so I don't know, I don't think I've told you this in the past, but I have a dog training business as well that I've worked with dogs and trained them, done behavior modification and all of that kind of stuff with them for over a decade. And one of the things that I find all the time is that humans don't want to have dogs operating under dog psychology. They want to push human psychology on a dog. And it puts the dog in an emotional, psychological like panic. And they go into this very, very stressful state and they don't know what to do because their body and their brain wasn't designed to function that way. And so then you start having illnesses that pop up, you start having pain that starts coming up in different places that vets can't figure out what the problem is. So they give them anxiety pills, they give them anything to kind of like sedate them. They start, doing lots of different things like this because that's exactly what it is. They're being put into unnatural common but unnatural situations. And that's really the same exact thing that I think we see a lot with us too.
Absolutely. Again, anxiety, depression, even hot flashes, brain fog. You hear about these things, weight gain. None of that is natural for the body. None of
Mhm.
it is. Our body is designed to be in the homeostasis. Our body wants to heal. This is why when we have a wound, we have to do our part of cleaning it and not hitting ourselves again and let the body do what the body is designed to do, right? For as long as we don't interfere. But what happens is we don't live the way we're designed to live. And so, from a biological standpoint, we live a very boxed life. We don't move, we don't eat the right food, we don't get out in the sun, we're not as tribal as we used to be. And so people lose themselves. And again, on top of that, what we were brought up with is normal to us. So we don't recognize certain patterns until we start learning about them. For example, I grew up with there was probably 10 to 15 other kids in the area that we grew up with. There was a few of us girls, mainly boys. But one of the patterns was anything you do differently, you were made fun of for that.
Mhm.
And I
Yep.
never obviously recognized that as a kid, like, oh, that is not good for me. And I am like, you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't recognize as a child, like, the effects of that. But as a grown up, I'm like, this is why I'm afraid to be seen. This is why I'm afraid to be different, right? And just like that, there are patterns everywhere. My mom got sick when I was 4. I don't remember this, but my body does. And I felt abandoned. All I know as a 4-year old that my mom is not there. My safety net is not there. So I need to go into fight or flight to prove to the world that I'm enough, for one, and two, to defend myself. And
Yeah.
then when I moved to United States and then I lived on my own, it was like, fight or flight all over. It was like that wound got like just got enlarged. And so until I was willing to look within, nothing else worked permanently. This is why it's very important that a person wants to really do the work
Yeah.
because there are plenty of new shiny objects out there, and there are plenty of therapies, and there are plenty of things to be done. But the truth is, when we create safe space for ourselves to experience what we've been trying to avoid to experience, until we do that, the anxiety, the depression, the brain fog, the weight gain, the you name it, the exhaustion is a big one. They're going to keep showing up.
Yeah. I told my daughter before, I have an older daughter. She's 21 now. And I remember when she was kind of coming into that adulthood, she had, so many things that was going on with her. And I remember a comment coming from her because like you said, a lot of things we determine as being normal, right? And I remember a thing that she had asked me one time. She says, Mama, she's like, why am I so broken? And it was like, "Baby, you're not broken." It's like, "You're not broken. The world's broken."
Yes.
It's not you. And, so I started talking with her and I'm like, "You've got all of these things that you're dealing with." And I said, "It's like trying to come and, like, take all the grocery bags from the car in one trip and having them all hanging on your arm, trying to get them up the steps and into the house, right?" And, you know, if you can sit there and take and deal with this bag over here and somebody, is able to take that for you and then you get this bag off of you and you get that bag off of you, you might not be able to get rid of all the bags, but you can get rid of some of them by, like you said, being able to attack these different areas of your life and try to get them back into a regulated state
Yes.
and then you might not be able to get rid of everything, you might not be able to fix all of it, but you're able to get some of them off, so now you're only carrying a couple of bags, and then that just makes it so much easier to manage everything. You start feeling lighter, you start feeling like you're able to, like, actually handle life and handle yourself and breathe.
Yes.
And then your body just, I think, starts to finally, like, reset.
Yeah, absolutely. It does reset. And that's the thing is, all these beliefs that we subconsciously picked up when we were little, they're showing up. And again, going back to women, we've been boxed so much, and our soul keeps just pushing us forward to say, no, there's more to me than this. Right. But we live in a society that's so busy that most women don't feel like they have time to do it. I was just talking to a new client yesterday, and one of the things is we were talking, and I just went, "Okay." She was sharing a past experience, and I said, "So you were a highly sensitive child living with siblings who were not?" And she's like, "Yes, I was always told I'm too emotional, I'm too overreactive, I'm too." I said, "There we go." I said, "Well, where's the scale? Who determines what's too emotional? She was a highly sensitive child. Most children that are highly sensitive are not able to, were not able to be themselves, to express their emotions. They were never told or shown how to co regulate. They were never shown any of this. So we grew up with our nervous system always in fight or flight because we feel we're too emotional. We feel there's something fundamentally wrong with us. We feel we're going to be judged if we show our emotions. And all the emotions that are is energy, emotion, emotion. It wants to find its way through to work through. And all we're doing is suppressing. So years of suppression is going to show up.
Well, I think too, we do that a lot because I mean, over the centuries, I mean, if you showed emotion as a woman, you were, all of a sudden told it was hysteria, and the next
Right?
thing you're going to be put into an asylum and never see the light of day again. I mean, it wasn't just that people rolled their eyes at you and just told you were crazy. I mean, there were like serious real world
Oh, yeah.
consequences,
Yep.
to showing emotion. So, it's not, I don't even think that's something that's just even a modern issue that has came up for women.
It's been around for a long time, and because of that, it's in our DNA. This is why the work that we're doing is generational. And this is why this generation or these few generations that I'm seeing now are doing so much internal work that is very important work because ongoing going forward, we're healing. We're stepping in to say, no, we don't want to live like this. We don't want to be in survival mode. And then how do I now create that for myself that it's not survival mode, right? That there's a whole new, once the decision is made, the work just starts. We make the decision, but now we have work to, how do I speak my needs? How do I create a safe environment? How do I judge everything according to my peace and not let anyone disturb my peace? Right? So there's a whole learning curve to it, which looking back, every one of my clients says, you know what, looking back, it wasn't even that hard. It's the looking ahead that seems so scary because we don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And really the work is typically easier than it seems, like most things when we get to them. But it's the most important work that we can do for ourselves.
Yeah. Do you find sometimes with the people that you're working with that, like you said, that it really wasn't that hard, but it was looking into the future and the unknown? And I know a lot of times people who are even in like abusive relationships, and to some degree, we are kind of almost in abusive relationships with ourselves to a degree.
Yes.
But a lot of times you hear them say that they don't leave certain situations because there's a comfort in the known of what to expect, even if it's unhealthy. The
Right.
unknown is so much scarier that it's like, well, at least I know what to expect here.
And that's exactly how nervous system works. Nervous system does not have logic, and we try to put logic on it, which is why people feel stuck. Once you understand how nervous system works, it's like, okay, now I get it. How do I now work with it? So nervous system doesn't have logic. I want to be happy. I want to earn more money. I want a loving partner. The nervous system doesn't care. Is it familiar or is it not familiar? If it's familiar, it's safe. Therefore, it's known and it's good. If it's unfamiliar, it's unsafe because I don't know what else comes with it. And your nervous system is running the show thinking that always knows better than you. So the person is like, I want to be in a kind of loving relationship, but they know how to identify someone with certain abusive patterns. So they're more drawn to that person because it's familiar. This is why this work is only for those who truly want to shift because our nervous system will keep us in pain rather than step into the unknown. The only time when people change is when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of unknown of change. This
Yeah.
is why people choose to suffer. And I say choose in again, they sometimes don't see that as a choice, but they choose to suffer because their nervous system is like, well, I know who I am in this identity.
Yeah.
Some people are stuck in the healing identity and all they're doing is proving themselves that another program won't work and it won't work and this won't work and that won't work. That people are just not willing to do the work at all. All of that is fine. We're here in our own individual journey. And then there are people who want to heal. We're like, all right, let me roll up my sleeves. What are we doing here? And then they really have to go in. It's always the inner work with
Mm,
their nervous system to choose the new identity and then to keep showing to our nervous system that this is what I'm choosing and this is safe. It goes to relationships, it goes to how much money we're earning. This is also why generationally people stick with the same amount of money that their parents have been earning. That's not just the knowledge, part of it is, but it's what's comfortable for us.
yeah.
We don't drop down, but we don't go up either, right? Unless we do this work. Same with relationships, right? It's been shown sometimes that women do choose different partners, but it's most of the time they choose partners of things that they're familiar to. And our brain, our nervous system, our eyes, they all work together and have a tricky way of showing us what's comfortable, what's known. So you're absolutely right. The nervous system is always going to go to what's familiar, not
Right.
the unfamiliar. And this is why we actively have to do this work to be aware of ourselves, to be aware of the inner chatter, and to constantly choose the action in the right direction.
You have a really strong grasp of all of this. And you talked about your heel and the situation that occurred there. But I feel like it goes deeper than that with you. I feel like there's more than that because you speak about this so passionately when we talk about it. Like, so I'm curious, was there something else aside of just that not wanting to listen when it came to the situation with your heel and your bone and all of that? Where else has this shown up in your life that you were just kind of like, this isn't something's not right. I don't feel it's right, and I feel that I'm being told the wrong information. I'm being gaslit. I'm being, you
Right.
know, all of this stuff. Where else was that for you?
So I got stories. How much time do we have? Well,
Are we
the big thing is I was born this way. I
uh
remember I remember when I was little and my parents were like, you go to school and then you go to high school and you go to university and then you get a job. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And then they would teach me stuff like traditional stuff. I always had this thing about traditions. I don't want it to do if it's traditional. I want to do it differently. And my kid will tell you my pet peeve, my biggest pet peeve is if someone tells me, well, that's just how it's always been done. Right. So I was always that person that was like, why is it done that way? Let's just do it differently. But this makes no sense. But I wasn't able to voice that properly, or maybe I wasn't heard, or maybe I just was still trying to make sense out of it in my head at that age. This
Mhm.
is why when you do this work, you start realizing all the things that happen to you. You come to a point where you realize all the things that happen to you have brought you here, and there's a lot of good in that. For example, when I was 16, 17, and I moved to the United States, I lived with my brother for a while. That didn't go well. Then I ended up living on my own. But I went into full fight or flight, and it was survival for me for a long time because it was like, well, I just got me. I only have me. I got nothing, no support, nothing. At that time, that was very traumatic for me, very. However, looking back, that's what gave me that backbone to always say no, right? Like, oh, you tell me this? No, I just, no, I'm going to do it the other way. That made me unemployable. This is why I have my own business, is because you tell me to do something. I'm like, really? I don't want to do it that way. So I was always a rebel in that sense. I think it just got louder and the older I got. That's one of the things. I think that's the fundamental thing. I was always, one of my friends in high school said, you're always on the side of the underdog. That was the other thing. I'm always compassionate for those who don't have voices for themselves. And I feel like so many women don't. That's another thing is, I love to support those who maybe don't feel heard or seen. And then the third thing that's big, I would say, is my mom had breast cancer. She died at 61 due to breast cancer that spread to her bones. And I 100% believe that that was all due to unresolved trauma that was stored in her body. And so I have that compassion for women for when I see them in pain and I go, you can heal. because I truly believe that one of the reasons I was led to this work is because of her as well. This is why I also don't judge people when they don't do this work. She never had it in her. She never was able to face all of that. It was probably overly scary to her, which can be scary to the nervous system. It can be scary, but she never did it. She never stepped into that. And so I think that the healer in me is like, if you're willing to do the work, I'm there. I did go through a patch of trying to get those kind of people on board, and it was like, no, I have to understand I can't push them. I can't push them into this work. They're on their own journey. If they never do the work, that's on them. I'm here for those who actually do want to heal. So I would say that those three things are the biggest ones for me.
Yeah. Okay. You've also talked about, and I think we've kind of touched on it a little over here without exactly saying all of it, exactly what it is here, but you have one, and you kind of just said with the rebel side of it, of normal is a word that I think you like to toss out of your vocabulary.
Totally. Who determines that? Like, who
Yeah.
determined what's normal? Like, I understand parameters, but like, go to another part of this world. You're going to find a completely different normal from what you thought was normal, right? The lab results are normal. What? Why? We're all individual. Don't try to fit me in the box. There's so much. Like I said, the new client that we were talking, and she's like, highly sensitive. She was this highly sensitive child, always told she was too emotional. Sis, like, where's the limit to normal on emotion? Like, where's the limit? What's normal on being normally emotional? So yeah, you're right. I don't like that word much at all.
Nope. That's what I was gonna say. So I know that word is not in your vocabulary. And so when people do, and you talked about normal labs just now, that was my question. So when they say that, you have normal labs, everything's normal. So, but I still feel like crap. So what does that mean when they're saying that, well, the labs are normal, your hormones are normal, or this is normal, your that is normal, and you're just
Yeah.
older, or
So
you're
that's exactly what people are,
not, this or that. Yeah.
that's exactly what they're said. It's normal. This is just in your head. Or that's just anxiety. Here's a little something for that.
Uh-huh.
You're just depressed. Here's a little something for that. It's all in your head. They make them feel like they're crazy. First of all, women were not included in clinical trials until 1993. And even now, it's extremely limited. So everything we know about the body is based on men. I had
Uh-huh.
a post recently saying, stop telling women to take cold plunges for crying out loud. I had
Just
women, yeah, and women were DMing me like, thank you for saying that. They're telling me I should do it.
as soon as I read it, I was like, "Oh, thank God I'm not crazy." Because I'm like, people have been saying cold plunges, they extend your telomeres and they this and they that, da 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 da. And of course, it's all men saying this stuff. And
Yes,
I'm like, if I go into a cold plunge, I might die because it's like
it's
I'm gonna
awful.
so bad if
Yes.
I do that. And
Yes,
I'll
and
I
in
do it
women
event.
living already in fight or flight, freeze or fawn, you put them
Mhm.
in a cold plunge, it's just a shock to the system. It's higher freeze mode. What does our body tell us? I don't know any woman, unless she's dealing with hot flashes, which they haven't been addressed properly. But unless that's the situation, every woman is like, oh my God, I'm so cool. I worked when I was in my I think I was 20. I worked in an office with just men. I was so cold all the time. I would sit on one hand and type with the other and then switch because my hands were so freaking cold. So then after all these experiences, it's like, do the cold plunges. They're so good for you. Pro advice. And women are
Yeah.
like, why? I hate this so bad. And so it's causing more stress, right? So it's the same with you know, lifting weights. Lifting weights is amazing. Eat protein. Eat 30 grams of protein with your meal. I'm not saying, and this is again, so people don't twist my words. I'm not saying don't eat protein. I know protein is very important, and it is, and I work with my clients on that.
Uh-huh.
I know weightlifting is important, but I work with my clients on that. I had a client came to me for weight loss, hated lifting weights.
Mm,
What does she love? Hiking. She is a devoted hiker right now. And then that led her to want to lift weights, to build muscle, to feel stronger, to go longer distances, right? You start with yoga and you do that for a while and you're like, oh, okay, great. But like maybe I should do Pilates. Maybe I should do a little bit more weights. Maybe I should do some resistance. Maybe I should just go swimming, right? Like there are many ways of doing that. Um, Protein, again, if you tell me eat 30 grams of protein right now, first of all, I will vomit because my body is just absolutely saying no to that right now. As I increase my workouts, as I do more resistance training, as I do more running, I will already have a need to eat more protein, right? We have to go back to listening to our bodies. And what is my body telling me, right? Like, do I need to eat more meat? Right now, for example, I've tried not eating meat, I've tried eating meat, I've tried all of it to experience it all in my body because there is no one size fits all. And for example, right now, my body's asking for red meat. There's something in it, probably iron, that it's asking me to give it more of. This is why people go on salad kicks or I'm on a blueberry kick. I don't know what's wrong with me. I just feel like eating blueberries because our body knows when we eat blueberries, we get vitamin C, vitamin D, like the body kind of knows what we get from what and
mhm.
it tells us what we need. We mess it up by eating too much sugar, and then we get addicted to sugar, and then the body doesn't know what signals to show us anymore. Then we don't get proper sleep, and our body's like, give me sugar because I need energy. Give me, caffeine because I need energy. And all of these are really highly expensive shortcuts. Caffeine, sugar, lack of sleep. And again, we've normalized that. Oh, everybody's under stress. Oh, that's normal. You don't sleep in your 40s. That's normal. We've normalized so many things that are actually stealing our health. That's the
Yeah.
biggest problem is getting to the root cause. What is happening with a person? What happened? And I don't go, by the way, when we're talking about like what happened in childhood, I don't do talk therapy. The body relives whatever we're thinking about or talking about. So if we're talking about something traumatic that happened in the past, my body is reliving it actively right now. We don't want to do that. We want to stop this pattern. Oftentimes, I get to the why because I see a relief in women when they go, "Oh, I see how I that started." And it removes this guilt and the shame over I should have been doing this. I should be. So I give them that answer of the why. Once we get there, it's like, how do we stop the nervous system for trying to get us back there? How do we rewire it into safety? And that's where then we look into nutrition and sleep and all of these other things. And that's how the body just heals.
Yeah. Well, and I know for me, because, you and I have talked and I've dealt with a lot of this stuff over the years. And like I said, I made a post. I'm like, geez, what I wouldn't have given to have somebody like you that could have just made me feel not insane, over years and dealing with stuff for decades of people telling me I was crazy. I mean, I had one, what was it? Oh, what does she do? The ultrasound techs. One of them told me one time because they went to do an internal ultrasound and I nearly climbed off the table because something that was there was caught and I was having a ton of pain and things just were not right. And I didn't know what it was, but I about climbed off that table when she went to give me that internal ultrasound. And she just told me because she knew. She's like, I said, they keep telling me there is nothing wrong with me. And when she saw how I was when she went to do it, she says, honey, she's like, I don't care what they tell you. She says, you keep going to different doctors until somebody gets you an answer. She's like, because that was not normal. And that was probably the only person in the medical field that ever told me that it wasn't that was not no that you're not nuts. Because the gynecologist I had at the time told me it was in my head. He sat there and was trying to put me on, like, antidepressants and anxiety medication and this, that, and the other, and it was like, that's not even related. Like, it's
Yes.
like, there I'm not telling you I'm depressed, I'm not telling you I've got anxiety, I'm telling you I have pain. There is a different situation, and finally, I mean, I ended up at a different doctor and found out literally it was the fact that when I delivered my daughter, my cervix tilted and
Wow.
it tilted cervix. And that was the source of, in that particular situation, was the
Right.
source of all. But like I was being told by all these other doctors that, oh, you're just anxious. You're depressed. You're this, you're that. And I'm like, which then exasperates everything.
Yes.
Now you're making me anxious.
Yes.
Now you're making me depressed. I wasn't before, but the longer this goes, now it is adding to it. And it just adds this whole secondary layer of stuff that now adds more medical issues and more problems on top of you because now it's the stress and anxiety um medical problems that you're getting on top of it. It's just it layers, you know.
Absolutely. And that's the thing is most people, most women just feel, and this is why women have thyroid issues, by the way, neck issues, thyroid issues, any issues here, jaw issues. We don't feel heard. And for the longest time, we were told to be quiet, right? Be the quiet one, nice one. Don't blah, blah, don't start the argument. All of that. Then we start speaking and no one hears. So not only that causes those issues, it's that now I'm freaking angry because I'm screaming and you're not hearing me. And it's the way the medical system nowadays is. On PubMed website, which is .gov website, it states that it takes on average 8 to 10 years for a woman to get diagnosed with endometriosis. On that site, it states that generally women's pain is not taken seriously. On that site, it states a woman generally waits longer in ER than men. It's just like the list goes on and on. This is like known, and then nothing is being done. And again, I'm not saying no to medication. I'm just saying there's a time and a place for it. I had a client who was on 16 medications, 16 within less than 2 years. So it's like a year and a half, maybe. We got down to 1.5. So
That's incredible.
she was working with her doctors on lowering the meds. I'm not
Mhm.
anti-doctor. I'm not anti-meds, but she was able to balance that, right? So, right, then another thing is another client came to me, and one of the things I do is I actually do send them to a different kind of a lab to get different kind of tests done. She saw something that she didn't like. She started investigating. Now we're working as a team. She and I work on the nervous system. She's getting her heart checked, and we met right at the right time for her to do that test. She finally just had a stress test. She actually sent me a picture yesterday to say everything's fine. And she was so concerned with that. What if we didn't catch that on time?
Yeah.
Women, I just posted today, women are 50 times, 50 times more likely to be misdiagnosed when they're having a heart attack
Yeah.
because the symptoms for men are what they look at. With symptoms for women, they don't look at as that. They actually look at them as anxiety. So it's everywhere. And I'm not saying no to anything. I'm not like, just talking about, I don't know what people have in mind, but I'm talking about getting our power back to the ability to give our body an ability to do what it's supposed to do and only use what's absolutely necessary until we sort our nervous system, until we sort our sleep, until we sort how we're eating, how we're thinking, how we're feeling, how we're sleeping, how our environment is. And when we do that, the body's going to do what it's supposed to.
So you talk about that. So if someone's dealing with things like anxiety and exhaustion and brain fog and all of that, what's some of the first things, like how should they start thinking about that differently? Because in their mind, the way we've been brought up, it's, well, that's the problem. Your
Right,
anxiety is the problem. That's, the brain fog is because of this
right.
other medical issue or, whatever. So how do they start thinking about that differently?
Why? That's the main question. Don't stop asking why. Be like the most annoying child that never stopped asking why, right? Oh my God, I'm starting to have anxiety. Why is this showing up? Why could this be showing up? What's different? Well, I'm hitting menopause. Okay, but what else? Do I feel like myself? right? Like start questioning your whole life, but start with a why. Why is this showing up? Why is this showing up now? Hmm. Why? I was just talking to a lady today. She said she's depressed and she's on a couple different medications, and it got worse when she hit menopause. So we're chatting back and forth. And again, I know what questions to ask. And then it comes out that she's been depressed since she was 20, but she's always managed it with medication. And I go, okay, we're getting closer to the root cause. Why did it show up in the 20s? So now we got to go and find out what's the source of this depression. Because once we know that again, with the source, oh, I never felt loved and accepted. Okay, now that we know, is that really true? Now we're actually going to start rewiring the nervous system to operate from a different identity. Like, how would it feel if I was loved? Right? Start working in a different way. Does she still need medication? Probably for the time being, but will she need it? Time will tell. But for 20 years to be on something because we've never asked why, to me is like, let's not do that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I agree with that. Why do you think people are so quick to just suppress the symptoms instead of asking the why?
Women have been raised to wear badge of honor to say we have a high pain threshold.
Oh, uh-huh.
And that's a trick because one, we give birth, right? Like that's already a known thing. But we've been made believe that that's something to be very proud of. Why? Because that way you can put more on a woman. That way you can put her through more because she's going to keep trying to deal with it and keep trying to deal with it and keep trying to deal with it. So stop wearing that like a badge of honor, right? Like I tell people, I am full of tattoos. I love them. They're who I am. I would have never gotten tattoos if I had my nervous system regulated in my 20s. I can guarantee you that. I see
Yeah,
anything painful now. I'm like, I don't
maybe
think it's
not.
worth it. Where this was an expression of I had to feel something. I had to feel something through the pain. It gave me the high. So
Mhm.
our whole life experiences change depending on our state. So women have made to believe that having a high pain threshold is something to be proud of. So you can take it. So she takes it until she can't take it anymore. And then she goes and she's dismissed because life's normal. And it's just this vicious cycle, right?
Yeah.
So why do they suppress? They've been taught to be quiet. They've been taught to put themselves last, and they've been taught to wear that like a badge of honor. So they suppress it and they suppress it until they literally cannot suppress it anymore.
So when they're in this survival mode, we talk about and I know we've used a lot of terms and we've used a lot of stuff like that, but give me the real world, real life. This is what you're experiencing when you're stuck in survival mode. What does that really look like?
Really great question. There are basically four patterns that we now recognize as a stress pattern: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Fight is going toward the danger, waiting for something to happen. Like that was my dominant one, but I went through all fours for 20 years. So mine was like, I'm the tough girl, I'm the tough fitness girl. Like, just say something, like, I'm ready. You see that road rage, right? Like, that's pretty fight. Like, fight. I'm going to go fight you. Like, say something to me, look at me wrong. I'm going at you. You're going toward the danger.
Like, are you
Flight,
looking for it too?
you look for it. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because when you're in fight or flight, your brain is actively looking for danger. So when you're
Uh-huh.
in fight, you're looking for it to go at it. And adrenaline makes you feel good and makes you feel powerful. Okay. And it's
Okay.
addictive.
Okay.
Flight is I'm so busy. Oh my gosh, I'm multitasking. I am so busy right now. As soon as I'm done with this, I'm gonna go do this. I have another interview. I have so many things to do. I'm so busy. Makes us feel good because we never wait for silence because silence scares us. And it makes us feel good because it goes with fun, which I'll address in a minute. But flight is also makes us feel good because we're busy. We feel important. We feel needed. Okay. A freeze is I'm scrolling, I don't care what needs to be done, I'm ignoring it, or I know what I should do, I don't know why I'm not doing it, or nothing matters. I am numb. It doesn't matter if I get out of bed, totally disconnected. And then fawn is overgiving, over pleasing, over accommodating, saying yes to everyone, making sure everybody's happy. never asking for my own needs. And it goes really well with flight because flight is staying busy. So if I stay busy and I say yes to everyone, I feel loved, I feel validated, and it's going to keep me in the loop. So those are the four main ones. Fawn is the least recognized one as a stress response, but we're starting to talk about it more and more because it's been so ingrained, not just one society, all over the world for women to be raised to be in that. So again, that's our normal until we're like, wait a minute, I don't know who I am. Who am I? And if you look at well-meaning husbands on social media wishing their wives happy birthdays. You see it all over. Thank you to my wife who sacrifices so much for her family, who gives herself unconditionally to everyone. We love
Mhm.
her as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter. They never say for you as a person that you are. It's always for all the sacrifice you're doing for others. So then she hears, this is how I feel loved and recognized. So I need to do more of this. So someone listening to this can say, okay, but yes, but I still need to be there for my family. Yes, but there is a balance. And as you start shifting, they're going to start shifting too.
Right.
And it all ends up being for the better because you end up being happier and more peaceful and more patient and more in tune with who you really are. And then not just happy wife, happy life, it's the happy mother, happy
Yeah.
woman of the household. Everything
Yeah.
else stays in peace.
Never really thought about that. Yeah, when you do see those posts, it is. It's about everything you do for them, but not about you as a person.
Start paying attention. You're going to see it
Yeah.
everywhere.
It's not the, the fact that, she's so smart, she's funny because she's,
Yes.
that she's a very loving person or that,
Yes.
it's just all of the gives of, of her. It's all about how it affects everyone else
Yes.
and not about the deep inside of seeing her more deeply.
Yes. Correct. You're going to see it in 99% of posts. There's that 1% that's like, "Oh, my wife, who is a funny and a smart, but generally it's she's sacrificing herself. She's unconditionally giving herself to her family. And then she's a mother, she's a daughter, she's a wife. That's her identity. It's never, I love you for the woman that you are. I love you for the person that you are. And when we start seeing that and recognizing that, that's when we can start changing the words and the narrative and actually allowing women space to be who they are.
It's interesting. Now, great. Now I'm going to sit there and see it everywhere that I see posts now. Mother's coming up in a month, and it's just,
Yes.
no, I see that.
Yeah, you're gonna see it. Now you're gonna see it. But that's beauty of it because you're gonna start recognizing it. I mean, think about it historically. We as women, and I've done the same, we've taken the last names generally of our husbands. We went from an identity, like we went from our fathers, from our families, to being, and we were treated as a property at one point in time,
Yeah.
the wife of a man. And also in Miss or Mrs., it's also shown where's your value. Are you a Miss? Are you a Mrs.? Where for a man, it's always the same. His identity doesn't change whether he's married or not. I mean, so subliminal, but you can see it everywhere. And we need to start seeing it so that we can teach our children different, so that we can voice ourselves differently, so we can create space for women to be who they are. So they are seen and they're heard and they're validated. And 80% of symptoms drop by the fact that she's seen and validated and heard.
Mm. So, what does that empowerment mean to you when it comes? Because we've talked about it now about just and being heard and things like that. What does that mean when somebody's a woman is looking at trying to take on more of that empowerment, but we need to do that with our body. What is that?
Learning how to put herself first and even learning what that means. Because, for example, you and I are both mothers. So if somebody tells us put yourself first, we're like, well, what do you mean? Like if my kid needs me, I'm going to be there. Yes, absolutely. But I also had to condition my kid, right? Like when I'm meditating, he wants to be around me, and I had to teach him how to be around me so that I can have my 10 minutes because I need them so I can be a better person, be more kind, be more patient, be more present with him. I had to condition him to certain things, right? I had to tell him I have a headache and I have to go and lay down, and he wouldn't understand it because he's 7 years old. Thank God, never had a headache, but he wouldn't understand it. And so I had to condition him to say, when mommy tells you she can't play with you, that really means she can't. You can be around me. We need to have the light down, whatever it is, right? I used to get headaches. I occasionally get them in the winter. It's all the pressure, whatever. And so I had to teach him that, and I'll tell him that. So what I'm doing is I'm conditioning myself to speak my needs, and I'm conditioning him to understand that sometimes he can give me space and how to give me that space. Now, let's say we're here and he comes in crying because he felt, yes, of course I'm going to attend to him. So we have to actually learn what that looks like for us and how it shifts day to day. That goes with setting boundaries. But the boundary is not just, some people think like setting boundaries is just saying no to everything. No, one of my clients and I are working on her boundaries right now. And she says yes to everyone without thinking. I said, okay, well, next time you don't look at your calendar yet. You ask yourself, do I have emotional, mental, physical capacity to do this? And do I actually want to do this?
Mm,
Now, if I said yes to all of that, I'm going to look into the calendar and see if I have space.
that's interesting. Yeah, I think that's something I've recently started doing more, and I felt really guilty about it to start with.
Yes.
Because it's not so much because you feel like when you say no to people that you're telling them that you just I don't know. I guess, like, I always felt like if I told them no, that I was telling them that I didn't care enough about them to
Yes.
be with them, to spend my time with them, and I didn't ever want people to think that I didn't value them.
Hmm.
Time is such an important thing to me. And, because people spending time with me, that's a value thing for me, that's a way that I feel loved.
Yes.
And so at the same time, so if I'm telling somebody I'm not, no, I'm not going to come over. I don't want to go do that. I'm essentially feel, even though it's not true, I know
Yes.
that here, but I feel like I'm telling them, no, I don't love you enough to do that.
Yes, correct. The conditioning is 100% on point. On point. So, how about this? Saying exactly that. You know what? I really value you and I love when we spend time together because time together is very important for me. However, today I'm going to have to decline because I really need to rest.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
learning to say it, there's this whole new movement of no is a complete sentence. Yes, but do we really need to do it that way? I teach my clients something called firm kindness, being firm and being kind. You know what? I'm really not going to be able to make it tonight. I love you and I value you, and we're going to do something together eventually. Don't take this personally. I just really need an evening off. I mean, who would say like, "No, still I need you," right? Like people would be like, "Yeah, totally, I get it." And
Yeah.
then we show to our nervous system, everybody was okay when I spoke my need. Can you
Yeah.
believe it? And then
Yeah.
we showed it evidence and then another evidence. And then we get to choose and pick what fits us when.
Mhm. Yep. And I think that starts to actually show you too, when you do that, who actually values you and who doesn't. Because the people that truly value you are going to be like, oh, I get that. And I love you enough to let you have that time to yourself. You
Yes.
know?
And another woman will say, thank you for giving me space and the courage to do the same when I need to. Right? I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's great. I have a friend of mine that I recently just kind of told her to. I'm like, man, I'm like, yeah, I'm checking in with you to see like who's, when we're going places, I'm gonna be asking you like, okay, who's going? Who's gonna be there? How many people are gonna be there? How much of this is, essentially asking how much of this of myself is this going to take to participate?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I was always like kind of scared to say those things to people to start with. And So when I started kind of telling her that and I just kind of explained it, I'm like, the more people there are, the more it takes of me to participate. And especially the more people that I'm not familiar with that are there, that takes even more,
Yep.
you know? And, I'm like, so there just might be times that I just don't have it to give in those moments. And, she was so great. She's just like, "Oh, yeah, that's fine." She's like, "That's yeah, I get it." And
Totally.
I'm like, "Oh, thank God." And now it is. It's like when it's gone, so I'm like, "Okay, who's gonna be there?" Like, how many people.
Totally. Yes, the first time we start setting boundaries, the first time we ask questions, the first time we speak our needs, our nervous system, it keeps giving us signals that do not do that,
Yeah,
danger, because it's
yeah,
unknown. Because it's
yeah,
unknown. That's it. And once you familiarize yourself with it, you're like, yeah, I just say no to everything. I
yeah.
know. Like that.
You start finding those people in your life that actually care about you, and they're just kind of like, "Yeah, no, totally, that's fine." And you're like, "Oh my gosh, thank you."
Yeah.
You are wonderful.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Not only is it signals for yourself that you can do this thing, but it also kinda starts to filter, I think, the people that you've been trying to divide your time and divide your
Yes.
energy and everything amongst as well.
Absolutely.
You can't keep giving time to people who didn't really value it in the first place, who was using it in selfish ways.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
Um, yeah. So, um, how do you talk to people when they come to you and they've had these conversations and they just, because we touched earlier about, doctors, not all doctors are bad. Doctors we're not totally anti-doctor. And I like how you said it to me before we recorded.
Yeah. I just
Like,
don't
I'm
want to use bad words. I'm not
I'm
anti-doctor. Yeah. I'm anti-crappy doctors.
So, when you have people as you're talking to them and stuff, and they come to you and it's like, "Oh, well, the doctor said this was normal, the doctor said that was normal, so doctors are just always wrong." How do you respond to something like that?
Well, are they helping you find a root cause? I
Mhm.
mean, that's really the bottom line is what advice did they give you? Or if they know they're limited in their knowledge, like my dad was great at this. You know what? This is not my area of specialty. I don't feel comfortable answering that for you. Let me send you to blah blah blah, right? And so knowing their limits is also important, right? Like if I don't know what's going on, right? I will tell a person where to go. That's really the point here is a doctor is supposed to help the person get the answers. And if they're not, then they're probably not doing their job right. A
Right.
doctor is supposed to be a healer. A doctor is supposed to be a healer. They have, I think, not even one full semester of nutrition in their whole entire school, if even that. So there's a lot that they don't know. This is why going to a doctor who will not look at you funny for natural ways you're trying to heal, right? Why don't we do it together? Why don't we work together, right? So a doctor shouldn't I saw this one video a long time ago when a doctor got mad that a person said, "Well, I read online that blah blah blah." And we should welcome that. I need to read online stuff, right? I don't need to trust everybody blindly. I need to educate myself. Now, yes, we need to talk about which articles we read and stuff like that, but I need to show up knowing more about my body than my doctor, right? And so we've been conditioned to fully trust them. They don't have time to take things into consideration. They, again, don't necessarily have knowledge to put the body and the mind together. They don't ask the right questions, and then they don't know how to give the right advice sometimes. But there are some great doctors out there. Like, again, I have clients who've been working with doctors. Yes, we're working together to get this person mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually well. That's
Mm,
the goal.
mhm.
And sometimes, yes, sometimes I don't work with doctors. If someone comes to me and they're like, I'm on this path, I know what's going on, I need to work on my nervous system. Cool, let's do that. But a lot of times they're like, you know what? I'm having anxiety, I'm having heart palpitations, I'm having panic attacks, I'm having all of this, and I'm not getting answers. And then through story, I usually find out. I mean, I think every single time so far, I found out it was their nervous system. I mean, it's just it's this big subject that we're starting to talk about. It needs to be front and center of every conversation, in my opinion.
Do you see, because there's obviously Western medicine and it has its place. And,
Yes.
I think there's the hybrid, that's why I tell my daughter and stuff too, I've told you before, she's very logical,
Hmm.
very, kind of thing. But my oldest, but, I've even told her, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to start with more homeopathic, more natural styles of things. If that works, then I don't need to go any further than that. I can't make that work, then sure, that's when I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna step over into more of the traditional medicine. But with a lot of this being like you talk about the nervous system a lot, with that do things like more of the Eastern medicine, like your acupuncture and a lot of that stuff, do you find that that helps too? Like pairing?
Depends. Yes, it depends on a person and depends on what they believe, right?
Mhm.
So if
Yeah.
someone shows up to me and they're like, I don't believe in acupuncture, but people are telling me I should go. I don't think so. It really comes down to what they believe, right? And so we have to again look at the person as a whole. If someone's like, you know what, I've done acupuncture, it's been working out for me. What do you think about it? Try it out, right? There's no one size fits all, which makes it kind of fun, but also kind of like exhausting for people because they're like, just tell me what to do. Like,
Yeah.
well, you're kind of individual, so we're going to need to find out what works for you. And
Yeah.
so it does a lot have to do with their beliefs.
Mm.
Our life is so much, I mean, it's our beliefs. Our life is our beliefs. So
Mhm.
if my belief is completely against Western medicine, I'm probably going to have a different reaction to it than if I'm open to it, right? So it really depends on what the person is believing. Like the lady that was on 16 different medications, she had a psychiatrist, she had a psych, she was diagnosed with bipolar, borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia. Well, our first conversation, she tells me she's vegan. I'm like, all right, we're going to need to test your B12 and iron. Extremely low levels of B12 have been documented as a few episodes of what looked like schizophrenia. We fix that. That fixes a lot of problems, right? We look into her patterns and she's like, oh my God, I never even used the term nervous system with her till like a year later. And she was like, oh my God, I never recognized that as a child. I was always I was moving from one school to the other. And I'm telling you, all of this is highly sensitive people who were highly sensitive children. And so we get to all of that. And again, medication had a place for her. She's still on one and a half medication. So again, I'm not saying no to all of it, but I'm saying we were able to balance so much of her body for the body to be able to do whatever. And we're still in touch. We stopped working together probably about a year ago, and we're still in touch. And she's like, I can't believe how patient I am. Nothing pisses me off anymore. Like, and everything used to be just pissy to her. Like, it was just like everything was, right? So there's a huge chunk of that is how a person thinks and what they believe, to answer your
Yeah.
question.
No, I totally can see that. Your mind plays a huge part in what works and what doesn't on you. Because well, I
Absolutely.
mean, just even with what you're doing, you know that what you do works for people.
Yes.
But if they come into it and somebody just got like, yoinked up and sat in front of you and said, "Well, you're gonna do what she says," and they're just kind of like, "She's crazy,"
Yeah.
then what you do isn't gonna work with them anyway.
Yes, absolutely. I have to adapt to the person that comes to me. I have clients who are highly Christian and I speak to them in the way that speaks to them through the book, right? I have people who are all about energy and universe and I speak to them in a way that speaks to them. I'm not there to push my beliefs onto
Right?
them. I'm
Yep.
there to guide them to what works for them and what is their body telling them. I'm there to connect them to learn what their body is showing them. What signs is it showing them? What's going on? Are they holding their breath? Are they able to breathe? Like those things, that's where I'm there for that. I'm
You're
not there
meeting
to
them
tell
where
them,
they're at. You're meeting
yes,
them where
100%, 100% to speak to them in a way that they can hear it and they can go, okay, that makes sense. No one said it to me that way before. I totally understand that now. Let's work on it together. Right. I've had a client who she has a rare form of cancer and it's not leukemia, but it's some type of blood cancer. And we narrowed it down. What she came to me for is energy. She was feeling very low energy and she wanted to go back to her home project. She's a homemaker. She loves it. So we worked together and she got down to one pill a day and her energy was back. Everything's normalized. Her life is as normal as can be expected. And during our conversation, because I know her background, I said, there are some emotions you're not accessing here. I'm not pushing you. And she did this with hands pushing down, right? She's like, I said, you know what? That's totally fine. You don't have to, right? So am I gonna push her? Like, do I believe I would have been able to fully help her? Yes. Should I have pushed her? No. I don't believe that that's on me because she has to choose that. And if she doesn't, that's her choice. And we ended up working. We're still in touch. She's very happy with how her life is now. Cool.
Mhm.
So I have to adjust to the person that's in front of me and help them understand their body, connect them back to their body, and understand what the body is communicating rather than this is how I think you should live your life.
Right. Yeah. Do you think that what you see most often, do you think it's more biology, behavior, or a combination of the two that tend to lead to most of the issues that you see people dealing with the nervous system?
When you say biology, do you mean genetics or do you just mean the way humans are?
Genetics.
Genetics is about 5%. So only about 5% of the diseases and issues and genetic disorders that we have is what people were born with. 95% is affected by lifestyle. And by lifestyle, we mean including nervous system. Because when I say lifestyle, people think I should eat well and exercise. Yes, there's more to it than that. What are your thoughts like? What are your emotions like? Do you feel safe in your body, right? How do you feel on a daily basis? What's your stress level like? What's your environment like? Our environment cues us all the time. The biggest research I read about was with people who had, I believe it was multiple sclerosis. They took them out of this hospital. They went away. They've done, a lot of holistic stuff. All their symptoms went away. When they got back, all of their symptoms came back. Doesn't necessarily mean they're in a bad environment. It's that our environment cues us to certain behaviors, to certain thoughts, to certain actions. So to answer your question, it is a combination. However, 95% is what we do and how we think and how we live and the state of our nervous system.
Mhm. Yeah, because I know a lot of the stuff that people look at is, like, being genetic. They look at things like even, like, our what is it? The telomeres and different
Telomeres.
things. They look at a lot of that stuff as being, like, it's already genetically predetermined, like, how you're gonna age and how your body's going to respond to this, that, and the other. But then, like, I remember they had the one, and I bring this up because I think it's an extreme version, but it shows it, of how environment plays a part in all of that. And they had these twin astronauts that one of them stayed on Earth, the other went to the International Space Station, and I think spent like a year and a half or something up there. And when he came back, there was a very distinct, not only physical difference in the way that he looked compared to his identical twin brother that was on the ground, not fraternal twin, identical twin brother. And the DNA, the telomeres, all of that stuff within the brother that was in the space station changed. Stuff altered. And it wasn't the fact that, like, there was just they didn't do anything, any genetic modifications or any crazy, whatever. I mean, they were essentially sent the same person that was on the ground up to the space station. And the environmental difference, you got to think of the foods, that the way that they're eating up there, the, gravitational pulls, the stresses that would be up there. I mean, I think there's so much that, not just the lack of gravity, you know,
Right.
plays a part.
Right.
There's so much. But I think it goes to show how much environment can affect your body. I mean,
100%.
version
Yes.
of it, but if it can do it there, then you're still going to have effects here on Earth too. They just aren't going to be as drastic.
Yes. So we turn on these genes, we turn them on and off with our lifestyle. So think of it this way: computers only understand zeros and ones. That's how computers receive information. Think of it that way. We turn genes on or off, zero or one. So everything we do, think the thoughts, the food that we eat, the people around us, the environment, like all of that is turned into a zero one, meaning on or off for every gene that we have. So, well, for most genes that we have. So when it comes to how much power we have way more power than we were ever made believe as
Mhm.
to what we can do about our environment. And I will say this too: conviction overrides everything. Whenever in my life I said something with conviction, it overrode anything that was underneath that. We can't always pull it out of thin air. Sometimes we just have to like get to that place. But when we get to that place and say enough is enough, it still takes time to change, but we in that moment have shifted our identity. And for as long as we just keep taking action to align with that new identity, our whole life can shift in a very short period of time.
I was just watching some stuff on I'm a Strange Bird, if you've read any of the posts in, Monique's group there, when it comes to certain things. But I'm a big science person, and I do tend to read and do a lot with more of the fringe science and, quantum physics and, a lot of that stuff that I read on. And I was just watching a video about the fact of, exactly what you're saying, but it was scientists that was more your, theoretical physicists that were talking about the quantum physics, and they were saying the same thing. They're like, so much of, the world is existing within, this quantum state where almost a Schrodinger's cat kind of thing. Is it alive? Is it dead? We don't know till we open the box, right? But it's in a state of both until you determine it. And in the sense, the same thing with your body, it is both healed and ill at the same time until you determine that it's not. And then once you make the decision that it's going to be a certain way, and like you said, as you were just stating, like you're making that great statement, that great assertion, that determined moment that you're kind of it can't exist in both states. It is in what is determined, and that's what happens, and you kind of breathe it into existence at that point.
You completely do. I had back pain for years, and one night the pain was so great. I was turning in bed and waking up every time I would turn, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I got up and I said, "That's it." I said, "I am done. I am done living with this pain." And I
Mhm.
said, "I'm going to meditate every night. I don't care how long it takes, but this is healing. I'm done." I went into meditation. It was just the music. I relaxed. I literally didn't even know how I did this, but I started asking questions. I started saying, "Whose pain am I holding on to?" Whoever showed up, I said, "I'm sorry. I forgive you, and I'm sending you love."
Mhm.
Everybody, till people stop showing up. Then I visualize my back healing, healing, healing. I visualize myself playing with my kid the next day and jumping and jumping and jumping. I took the headphones on. I looked at the time, it was 3:30. It was the first time probably ever that I totally lost track of time.
Mhm.
Went to sleep. The only thing I did physically different is, again, instinctively, I took a pillow and I put it between my knees to turn to the side. I woke up pain free. Knock on wood, it's been 4 years, 3 or 4 years. And I know looking back after I was like, how did I do that? The biggest thing was that moment when I said, I am done.
It's over.
That was the moment. Did I still need to do the rest? Yes. But that gave my body a command to override whatever was going on that was causing the back pain that I had for years. Years.
Yeah.
Went to chiropractors, dealt with it. I mean, years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, can I pull it off again? I don't know. I can't just throw it out like that. Sometimes we
Yeah.
need to get to that. That's why I don't count on those moments. They show
Mhm.
up, great, but we don't count on them being there. We go one small step at a time to show to our nervous system that it's safe to be on the other side, in the other identity. And then over time, it happens.
Yeah. So if someone's listening and they're thinking, oh my gosh, this is me, what's the first thing that they should actually pay attention to and that first action that you feel that they should be taking?
Come to me to work with me. I mean, like the most logical thing you should do is come to me.
Yeah.
They need to start surrounding themselves with messages of the same. Because if we can be brainwashed to believe anything, we can brainwash our body into health. We can brainwash ourselves into everything. Listen to podcasts that talk on this, watch YouTube videos, read, listen to other people's testimonials when it comes to healing. Come to me to work with me. And of course,
Absolutely.
absolutely. And those messages are going to start getting in over and over and over again, and the body is listening. And then before
Mhm.
you know it, you'll be like, I had a moment of feeling better. I wasn't feeling sad this whole time. And then those moments start giving us more hope, and we build on that.
Awesome. What's one signal that their body might be giving them that if somebody if you hear somebody say this, you don't just sit back and just, maybe they haven't came to you for this, but you're just talking to people in general, like somebody in casual conversation, but they mention something and you hear a signal that they kind of mention and you're just like, I can't mind my business. No, I need to talk to you because you can't ignore this. That has to be immediately dealt with. What would that be?
There's a few. There's not sleeping well,
Mhm.
anxiety, exhaustion, depression, brain fog, rage. Those would be the top ones.
Rage was one of my big ones.
Mine
Well, that
too.
was a for me.
Mine too.
It got so bad with the rage part of it there for a while that I can't explain sitting with myself and the hate that I had with sitting with myself, other than to say the visualizing in my head was all I wanted to do was literally just try to peel my skin off to try to get away from myself.
Mine was toward other people. See, yours was internal. Mine was toward other people. Happy people used to piss me off.
Well, I had that too, but that
Uh,
was the thing is that I was self-aware enough
uh,
that the amount of rage that I was having towards other people
uh-huh.
was extreme. Like, I was aware enough to know that it was excessive
Right, right,
and
right.
and not good. And the thing was is that I couldn't get away from it though. Like, I
Uh,
couldn't all of that, and I didn't know what to do with it because I was recognizing it. I couldn't make it stop. I knew I could see what I was causing in other people because of that rage. And I hated myself for it. And
uh,
like, it was so much that I was just like, I didn't even want to be with me.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Mine
Yeah.
was all at other people because I wasn't aware. And then I didn't have moments of peace because then I would switch to flight and be a busy bee all the time until it was scrolling time to go and freeze. And then, of course, there's fawn. So I would switch from one to the other to keep
Mhm.
avoiding dealing with anything.
Mm. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
so hard.
rage is a big one. But see, the thing about you were aware, so you felt trapped because you
Mm,
didn't know what to do. I wasn't aware. It made me feel powerful because adrenaline makes you feel
mm,
powerful and numbs you, right?
mm,
And so it's a really tough place when you start being aware. And this is what I always tell my people is when you start being aware, get ready because you're going to be aware. You're going to watch yourself do, be, act, feel things that you know you shouldn't. And that's the hardest one mentally, but you're on the right track for as long as you keep doing that, because over time, you're going to start gaining more power to start winning over your nervous system. It is the hardest thing mentally to watch yourself take the wrong action and can't stop yourself. But it's if I can use the word normal, it is a normal part of the process. It is expected. It's unavoidable.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to sit in that discomfort to get to the other side.
And you gotta understand that it's removing the guilt and the shame and the self-judgment, because that's the old pattern. That's the loop that has been keeping us where we are. So
Mhm.
working on eliminating that self-shame, guilt, judgment, and learning, oh, you know what? Lex said that that was okay. So I'm just gonna keep going with it. I'm just gonna keep going with it. And then you're gonna start getting glimpses of your new self. And those are the moments we want to hold on to.
What is a simple thing or something simple that creates a noticeable shift for most of the women that you work with?
Well, awareness is one, but then we have to work on the guilt and shame. So I'll offer something else. Breathing exercises, being aware of how we breathe throughout the day, are we breathing through our belly, and learning to take deep breaths
Mm,
has an enormous power over our body. See, when we're in fight or flight, we need big things. I need you to tell me all these things I need to be doing to myself to feel better. And then I'm like, no, just breathe. And it's like, well, what do you mean? That's not enough. It is.
it is.
It is. Oh, lay down on your back and lift your legs up and let just take a few deep breaths to release your pressure from your psoas, from your pelvic floor. But I need to be doing something. No, that's what got us here. We need to
Mhm.
learn to just be. We're beings, not doings. We need to learn to just be.
Yeah, breathing. It's funny. This just brought it back. I had almost forgotten this until we're talking right now. I remember back in the day, I would all of a sudden gasp
Mm,
because I had stopped breathing.
breathing. Yes.
Like, I would be at I don't know for how long, but it was long enough that I would gasp for air, and that I almost totally forgot about that until you just mentioned breathing.
Yes,
Yeah.
because in fight or flight, our breath gets shallow, right? In fight or flight, it's as if a bear is about to attack me. If a bear is about to attack me, I need to just react and I need to have shallow breaths. I can't take long, nice, calming, deep breaths. So when we take a few nice, long, calming, deep breaths with a longer, even exhale, we're already signaling to our body we're safe. It's okay. There's no bear, there's no attack. And then we do it again and again, and the body learns over time. She's taking deep breaths. That means we can relax. And it just learns to relax quicker. And
Yeah. I think people don't realize what it means to learn to breathe a
yes,
lot of times. Like, what do you mean? Like, we just do that. It's involuntary. And I think it's like, at least for me, when I was in that state, I don't know if it was for you or you see it with women you work with, but there literally is when you say you forget to breathe,
yes,
it's literal. It's
yes.
not like, no, you just kinda forget, you know, that it's not like a figurative term, it's literal,
It's
you
literally,
know?
yes.
You know, you stop breathing or you stop breathing correctly,
Correctly, yes, correctly. If we look at babies, you'll see
yeah,
that they breathe through their bellies. Most of us breathe through our chest, nice, shallow breaths. So when we learn to breathe through our belly, first time I heard that, I was like forcing my belly in, and I was like totally disconnected from that. I was like, how do you breathe through your belly? What does that even mean? And then now I'm like, I don't even know how to just not breathe through my belly, right? So
yeah,
there's definitely a shift in there. I have a lot of clients who recognize that, like, oh my God, I never realized how much I'm holding my breath throughout the day. Yes, you're
yeah,
literally not breathing because you're
yeah,
bracing. You're in a brace position, waiting, right? A bear is about to attack me.
yeah,
And you're in that instead of being momentarily in that and going back to our calm state, we stay in that state. So
yeah.
yeah,
I
the body
totally
is not
forgot
real.
about that part of my experience until now. That's wild. What is okay, so as we're starting to kind of like come up and kind of like wrap up here, what is one belief that you would want women to stop accepting immediately, right now?
That you're not worthy. Yes. Worthiness is, it's like pesty belief in 99.9% of population. It's the worthiness. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. Nobody needs to hear what I have to say. It's all worthiness. It's worthiness. I wish I can completely eradicate that from people's brains.
Mm, yeah. For someone that feels like they've just been dismissed for years, decades, and that they're not being heard, what do you want them to know?
They are worthy. If they're here for a reason. And the reason is not just to manage symptoms. The reason is to learn about ourselves, expand on a soul level, and do more good. But we cannot do more good for others until we really sit in who we are and learning that we're free to become whoever we want to become. People who don't feel great about their lives, even people who are suicidal, it's not that they want to end their lives, it's that they want to shift from what that feeling is. They don't want the current life. We can change anything. We can change. And if I could change from my deep anger survival mode, anybody can. If I
Yeah.
can shift, if my husband can shift, who overcame so much from his childhood, and anybody can. Like I've seen it over and over again. We're normal humans with like all the issues that are there everybody else has. We've just learned to say, you know what? Like I said, normal humans. Like I said, screw what's normal. I'm normal the way I am for me, and I'm gonna find my own tribe. I'm gonna find my own voice. I'm gonna find out who I am, and I'm worthy. That is the biggest one. And believe me, some patterns stay with us forever. Do I have to remind myself of this sometimes? Yes.
Mhm.
We all have our work cut out for us, but you do stop healing and then you get to thriving. And then you occasionally you'll look back and like, oh, I'm falling into bad old patterns. Let me do it again. There's not, maybe somebody needs to hear this. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with you. Like whoever needs to hear this right now, know that there's nothing fundamentally wrong with you. That's it. And once we start from that, we can build on that. If we can believe that there's nothing fundamental wrong with us and that we are worthy, it's like the whole life can change.
I love that. So what is a book that you read that you feel has, like, shifted your perspective?
Breaking the habit of being yourself. Just
Break
just that title shifted everything for me. It's by Dr. Joe Dispenza. He nailed it. He nailed it. There's that book, and then his second book is something about superpowers or step into your superpower, something like that. But breaking the habit of being yourself is like the best statement ever
Yeah,
because that's what we are doing. We're breaking the habit of being who we believe that we are, and we're shifting into who we're creating ourselves to.
I like that. I like that. So now some unrelated questions to kind of what we've talked about. If you could travel anywhere that you haven't been, where would it be?
But that's an interesting question. Probably something like Nepal or some kind of Buddhistic stuff. I've never looked into Buddhism. I'm not really into religions, not one in particular,
Right.
but I would love to explore like the energy of those places. There's
Mhm.
one that I found in Wyoming somewhere and I never got to it. And I was like, that would be a really cool place to go.
In
Because I
Wyoming?
love exploring energy. To me, it's less about the words we use in the book we read. It's more about, again, how can I feel more in tune with the higher power and then connected to people around me? And there's just something very calm about those areas, people
Yeah.
like that chose monk lives. And I
Mhm.
would love to just explore that energy. There were a group of monks walking the US recently.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I read comments on a bunch of people who just like said that they just experienced something different when they were around them. And that's what I'm like wondering about. They talk about that inner peace a lot.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's like, how does our energy around us as we change. That is like a most fascinating thing to me. So I think that would be it. Yeah, I think that would
Yeah,
be it.
that's really neat because I think that's you worded that really well, probably explained to me why I pick those kinds of places when I think about where I wanna go to. Because I never when people ask me, like, where I wanna go or when I think about, like, a dream trip that I would want to, like, put together, it's never the big places, like the hot spots, it's never those kinds of places. I'm always the ones like, I wanna go to like I said, I love the animals and I love if you see my profile, we're working at the horse rescue, we have our horse here, that kind of stuff. I wanna go to Mongolia. You know, they're some of the best horsemen in the world are in Mongolia, and to sit there and be out there in that kind of environment with them, I think would be amazing.
Totally.
I've always thought that would be, like, such an amazing place to go and experience that traditional Mongolian horsemanship, and, I mean, there has to be some really amazing connection that they have.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I want to see and experience. That unseen thing,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know?
That
That
exactly. I find, like, that tie into so many things. I've said that about so much, like, yeah, I've always wanted to go and visit Japan, but Tokyo's never been on my list. I'm like, I don't even I mean, maybe a day just to say I've been there, but, like, it would be, like, a day out of a month, you know?
right.
And I wanna go to those places that nobody knows the name of,
Yes.
because I want to experience the more traditional style of things. I want to see that I want a traditional view and culture of things, to feel what that is to, I don't know. Just there's a different connection to the world and the universe and a lot of those areas. And yeah, I'm with you. Same kind of thing. Nepal's been on my list before. I love that.
There's tribes, I think it was in Panama that we saw that, and we haven't been, but there's tribes that welcome you to spend time with them and live with them in their own traditional way, and I was like,
Mm,
"Oh,
wouldn't that be
that
amazing?
would be the most amazing
Yeah.
experience ever," right? So that's I'm gonna add that to my list of things because to give that to myself and then my son to experience that, like, I would love that.
Well, that's the same thing, like Cassia with the trip to the Galapagos and stuff that they've just been talking about, like, going somewhere like that or being able to go and step foot even on, like, Antarctica and stuff to see
Yes.
places that are essentially untouched, you know, and so cool. Amazing.
Yes, I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah.
Nature calls, nature's calling us.
Well, it goes back into, like, what we've been talking about through so much of this, is, like, just getting back in touch with the way that we were meant to be
We were
back,
meant to be.
to the core and out of this, whatever we want to call this world we've created, you
Yeah,
know? Yeah. So, no, that's
absolutely.
so. Last question. If everything that you've ever taught people just disappeared and people forgot all of it, every single thing, but you could leave them with one more piece, one more thing from you, what would it be?
Keep searching.
Keep
Keep
searching.
searching for answers, keep searching for what if something great happens out of this, keep searching for the why. Just like never be satisfied with what is. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm very grateful for my life. I'm actually very happy with how my life is every day. But I didn't get this far to only get this far,
Mm,
right? There's that saying. And that's what I mean. There's always more curiosity about who can I become tomorrow? Who can I be 5 years from now? So
yeah,
keep searching.
I love that. Keep searching. I like that. That's new. Nobody's told me that one before. I like
I
that. Yeah.
don't think I've ever said that before. I don't think I've ever been asked that. So yeah, that would be my
Yeah. I like that. Okay. So, as people have come and they've watched this, they decide that this is them, they want to work with you. How do they get in touch with you, Lex?
I'm all over social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I'm even on LinkedIn. Lex Vucko, LEKS, VUCKO. My website is lex.pro. That's LEKS.pro. I am out there. So they can get in touch. They can DM me. They can email me. There's the membership. There's private coaching. There's meditations. There's a lot of things.
Awesome. And we're going to get all of that stuff. We'll put it into the show notes too. So it'll all be down there when they watch this. And I'm going to throw a few of those things like your handles and the links onto the screen. So that should all be popping up right now if people are listening to it. And they'll see all of that too. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Lex. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. All right. So, everybody, if you enjoyed your content today and you liked this episode, go ahead and head on over and hit the like and subscribe button and share this with your friends and to any women out there that you know that are feeling unheard and being told that they are going crazy, that it's in their head. Share this with them and let them know that there's actual answers out there and they don't have to live this way. If you'd like to see more episodes like today, make sure you like and subscribe so you never miss a thing.